Why isn't F1 considered an Olympic sport? As the Tokyo Olympics has just come to an end and we've seen such a variety of events from BMX racing to bobsleigh, it got me wondering why we never see any form of motorsport in the Olympics. F1 drivers are at the absolute pinnacle of their fitness and are very much deemed as athletes. So why aren't they included? It comes down to the fact that the sport is machine-based, and motorised sports, for some reason, are not recognised by the committee, which quite frankly, in my opinion, is ridiculous. They have sports like sailing, which granted is non-motorised, but is still showcasing an elite control of a vehicle, and you could also argue that shooting is the highly skilled use of a machine too. Yes, in motorsport you have an engine behind you that helps you move, but surely even people who don't watch racing know that this isn't everything that's involved in racing. There is of course the argument that in F1 the cars aren't equal and therefore we couldn't simply have an Olympic race in Formula 1 cars. However, and W Series in particular proves this is possible, creating a one-make car to have at the Olympics could fit in nicely. Then finally, us F1 fans would have some sort of equal car race that we've always dreamed of. Of course, it would rely on Lewis Hamilton signing up for Great Britain, Daniel Ricciardo for Australia, Max Verstappen for the Netherlands, and so on, which would be a task in itself. Don't forget, F1 drivers have very fragile egos, so I wouldn't expect, even if this did become a thing, for the top dogs to sign up anyway. That's not stopping me from dreaming though. It would be epic. Hold up, stop the video. Yep, that subscribe button still isn't pressed yet, is it? And you do not want to miss our content coming up, trust me. Thanks, love ya. Now, you know how I said at the start that motorsport isn't considered an Olympic sport? Well, if you go back over 120 years to the year 1900, motorsport did have a place at the Olympics and drivers were racing for gold, silver and bronze, albeit as a rather strange event. Let me set the scene for you. Paris, hosting the Olympics, only the second modern games ever, and part of it was 14 car races. These were being held for different vehicle classes which ranged between how much the car weighed and how many seats it had. It was definitely a race for the cars rather than the drivers. In fact, the entries were for the manufacturer rather than the driver too, so when the race was won, the trophy, they didn't have medals until the 1904 Olympics, went to the company rather than the driver. This means that for nearly all the statistics there isn't a competitor name, only the model of car that they drove. For a lot of them, there's no record of the car either. Yeah, record keeping wasn't as good back then as it is now, but even then, it's all very mad. Some of these mighty fights included the taxi and delivery van races. These were run twice, once for those powered by petrol and the other time, interestingly, for electric powered versions. So the Olympics, sort of, held the first ever Formula E race. Kinda. Other notable races included the truck race where 4 cars all got gold and no one got silver or bronze, the 7-seater car race where for some reason a gold and a bronze weren't awarded but silver was, and the fire truck race. Yes, fire truck had an American named Gilbert Brown become the only non-French winner. As you can probably tell, motorsport at the Olympics was pretty much chaos. Maybe that's why they've never gone back. In fact, the whole 1900 games were a bit of a mess. The IOC was supposed to meet to determine which sports were Olympic, but they never did, and a whole manner of unofficial events took place, which I'm afraid to say is the case for these races too. Unfortunately, it was also the same for cannon shooting, pigeon racing, and kite flying competitions as well. I can't help but laugh when reading this out. The main reason the races were unofficial is because they were held in partnership with the World Fair, an exhibition of tech innovation. To be honest, it seems a lot more likely that these races were done as ways for the manufacturers to show off at the fair, rather than as a proper sporting event, but they took place as Olympic races and were awarded Olympic prizes, so as far as I'm concerned, motorsport was at the Olympics and it definitely should be in the future too. There you have it, why F1 and motorsport aren't currently considered as Olympic sports. I still have hope that maybe one day they'll change their minds, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Do you think some kind of motorsport would have its place in the Olympics? Let us know in the comment section below.